Trading involves risk of loss and may not be suitable for you. Past performance is no guarantee or reliable indication of future results. All advice and education content is general in nature.
Good morning, traders and investors. It's Friday the 21st of September, and we've seen some selling or an attempt of selling activity in Europe and the US overnight, but the markets did recover later in the session. That's pulled the major indices back towards break-even. Starting off in Europe, the FTSE 100 was down 33 points, closing 0.57% lower at 5,854. We can see a solid red candle there with a large shadow on the bottom, just denoting a lack of seller conviction there. We still are in an upwards trend. This is a short-term counter-trend movement for the time being, and we haven't got a strong signal of seller conviction just yet to denote any stronger of a pullback at this point in time. The German DAX closed down 1 point, so virtually unchanged at 7,389, whilst the French CAC 40 had closed down 21 points, or 0.6% lower, at 3,509. It too also had pulled back from its intraday lows in a weak movement from the sellers. As we take a look at the US markets, the Dow Jones had actually gained 19 points after spending the majority of the day in the negative. It pulled itself back to break even, and in the final stages of the afternoon popped into a positive territory. That's only 0.1% though in movement, with the Dow closing at 13,596. This pattern up the top here is continuing to show the uncertainty that we've seen over the last 4 sessions, and it is actually in fact a hanging man candlestick, and if we get a solid red candle here, then we would definitely expect a pullback down around 13,300 and possibly even further down towards that 13,000 level. But at this point in time, it is still just a sign of weak buyer activity, a lack of conviction from both buyers and sellers, and we're in a very short-term trading range for the time being. The Nasdaq index lost 6 points, or 0.2%, closing 3,175, whilst the S&P 500 index lost 0.79 of a point, so that was barely unchanged, closing at 1,460. All of these leading indices from the US showing a very similar story, with strong negativity to start the day and a recovery throughout the remainder of the session. The VIX index did find a little bit of positivity in a completely reversed action for the day. It had gapped up, but had spent the remainder of the session slowly trading down. It ended the day 19 cents higher, or 1.37%, closing at $14.07, and again still continuing to hold on to this long-term support base around that 1350, 1360 level there, which we've discussed for the last month. The ASX 200 found selling pressure yesterday on Thursday. It closed down 17 points at 4,401. It is still showing a little bit of uncertainty above this 4,400 level, and as we've noted before, we are looking at 4,400 to 4,450 as a resistance range, where we have seen the peak back in early May, and a resistance point back in August that denotes this range. So that selling pressure, whilst it negated most of the previous day's activity, is what we call an inside day. It's showing a little bit of uncertainty there. It's still in an upwards trend though, so we haven't seen the trend break. So for the time being, even if we had a short-term pullback, the overall upward trend still appears to be in place. SPY futures are pointing towards a higher open of 12 points, and that will help reverse much of what had been lost yesterday. And what we need to do is see if that buyer activity can hold on into the closing bell. We certainly haven't had a strong reaction to manufacturing data over the last 12 hours. With the SPY futures pointing upwards, we are playing a little bit of catch up with the US market. So we'll see if we can beat the high of Wednesday, which was 4,421, and see if the buyers can maintain their momentum into the end of the week. Well, that's our summary for Friday, 21st September. We hope that gives you a little bit of an idea on what's been happening in the markets as of late. We look forward to giving an update on Monday and wish you all a wonderful weekend.